6 days to go before this pivotal election. Mayhem in Philly for a second night. Violent protests also break out in NYC. Babolinsky dropped bombs on the Biden lies, and the mainstream media continues to disgrace itself. Welcome, my friends. Oh my gosh, it is getting closer. That's the one thing we know for sure. It is getting closer. Who's going to win? Well, Trump's going to win, but go vote. Make sure you get out there. Make sure you go and do what you need to do to bring my prediction to reality. I was amazed this morning to see the way that we've really forced the journos, we've forced the left wing in this country as it pertains to the information apparatus to completely debase themselves and just abandon any pretense of principles whatsoever. And I'm amazed. Even some conservative outlets don't seem very interested in major stories here, or I should say right-leaning media. If you were to open up just a random news site this morning, chances are that you would find a story about how terrible COVID still is. It's getting worse. Much worse than it ever was. That's what they're telling you right now. We're supposed to be weeks away from it's terrible. Oh my gosh. Panic. They want you to panic. And then all this stuff about the polls. Oh, Trump isn't just up 7 points. Turns out Biden rather isn't just up 7 points. He's up 17 points. He's winning by so much. Don't even think about showing up to vote, Trump supporters. There's a lot of that going on right now. You're seeing a lot of that happening. You know what you're seeing a lot less of? Riots last night in Philadelphia. Riots. What's going on? Why are there more riots? Oh, that's right. We talked about some of this yesterday on the show because a man with, it turns out, an extensive and violent criminal record came at police officers with a knife in his hand and refused to drop it. So they shot him. This is sad, but this is also justified. Unless there's something we don't know, unless there's some evidence that has not come to light, and we got video evidence, so I don't know how that's really going to happen. And yet what you saw last night in Philadelphia was, as I've called it, the largest gathering of Biden voters you've seen all week, bigger than any rally for sure. You had looting of Walmart, of grocery stores, drug stores, clothing stores, just absolute destruction, thievery and destruction going on video. I mean, there are people caught wheeling out appliances because sometimes justice is too heavy to carry. So you got to use a dolly. You have to use one of those moving devices to help you with it. Sometimes social justice is found in a box of sneakers, it seems, because that's what was being taken last night. It was disgusting what's going on. I mean, the people who suffer from this are employees, business owners. There were small stores. I mean, yeah, they'd say, oh, look at Walmart. They're stealing from Walmart. What if that's your main store in your neighborhood and it has been totally ransacked? They never think, the libs that try to minimize this or excuse this, they never think about those secondary consequences, about those long-term effects. You think some other business is going to want to set up and take that lease? Think about what's going on in the country right now as it is. If you're a brick and mortar store, chances are, unless you're selling groceries, and even then I'm sure there's a lot of challenges with this, but chances are you're barely keeping your business afloat, if at all. And now you're going to have stores ransacked, merchandise stolen. What does this have to do with justice? Nothing, right? This was a BLM protest. It has nothing to do with making anything better. A protest. It's a riot. It's looting. It's destruction. And it's all Democrats. So in a sense, I'm almost thankful that the American people are getting a reminder of what the Democrat Party has been either supporting openly or at least downplaying, minimizing, acting like it's no big deal. Mostly peaceful, I'm sure they could say about the destruction and looting and rioting last night in Philadelphia, a major American city. There was also smaller scale, but some violent stuff going on here. Anti-cop riots here in New York. They were yelling about shooting at the cops. There chants. We have it on video. I can't play it for you just because there's also people screaming curses about the cops. But I thought this was about ending police brutality. Somehow, the movement that's supposed to be about ending police brutality thinks that destroying stores, stealing from people, lighting trash cans and buildings on fire, and what else have they been doing? Oh, running over police officers in vehicles. That also happened here in New York. Again, another cop run over by somebody in a car. They think that that's going to help with justice. That's really what this movement has become about. They're chanting about shooting at police, and they want to tell us that they're anti-violence? No, sorry. The Democrats can't control this wing. The Democrats can't be honest about what's really going on within their own party, about the radical Marxists, the leftists, who now have free reign and can actually demand obedience from other elements of the Democrat Party. They don't have any ability really to stop them, right? They can't tell them, you're not allowed to do this anymore. No, actually, they encourage it because it keeps all the rest of us off balance. Oh, my gosh. Look at all the corporations that bent the knee immediately, begging for forgiveness from BLM. We're so sorry. We'll send you checks. We'll do anything. And they'll let these fraudsters, these utter and complete lying hacks, get away with making demands like they're holding hostages here. The BLM activist movement. Yeah? What have they made better for anyone? I go back to my initial assessment of BLM from, what was it now, June, maybe July? BLM has made everything worse for everyone, including black people in America. It has made things worse. It has hurt neighborhoods. It has destroyed businesses. It is lawlessness, and it is entirely a product of and lives within the Democrat Party. These are Joe Biden voters who are doing this. And they're doing it at a time when they're also trying to tell us to defund police. Let me tell you, if you live in a neighborhood where the Walmart, it looked like 100 people running in and out, just stealing everything in sight. Would you feel safe? Yeah. There were reporters who were attacked just for filming what was going on. They don't want people to see this. It's amazing that this is where we are. And there's just a blackout on this from the media. There's no interest in covering this story whatsoever. There's some places that you'll see it. It makes the rounds on social media, but CNN this morning, The Huffington Post main story this. I don't know if anyone even reads that crap website. It's such garbage. But it used to be a big deal. Oh, it was going to be taking over the Democrat Party. The Huffington Post this morning, I was just taking a little gander through the left-wing insanity and through the corridors of Trump derangement syndrome, and they had something about how Mitch McConnell is doing something bad with the judges. It was just complete crap. Nothing about this. The New York Times, you had to scroll all the way down the page on their front page on their website, and you'd get to protests continue in Philadelphia last night. That was the headline. Or they could have said, riots ransack entire neighborhood, destroy major stores, millions of dollars of damage and theft occurred in the name of justice. What is the problem here again? Oh, that's right. A criminal, a violent felon, walked toward police aggressively with a knife in his hand that he refused to drop. If they think that that's a cause for rioting, there's no conversation to be had with the BLM movement or its supporters or whatever. There's nothing to talk to them about. This was always about coercion, friends. This was always about the mob unleashed on the streets because they can't make a more compelling case against the president. And they want to justify these dysfunctions within our society, these behaviors that are so destructive. And a lot of this is pushed, I think, into this worst place where it is a mass mental illness on display because of the lockdowns. But the lockdowns are just forcing those, or I should say, bringing those who act out to be even worse than they normally would because of the additional stress and anxiety and all the pressure that we can feel. It's all around us now still. And they want you to be miserable. The Democrats want you to be miserable and feel like this country is on the wrong path. And so this is just what you deal with. The shock troops of the Democrat Party. Just in time. Here we are in an election week. Joe Biden's going around just with the most boilerplate, sleazy politician slogans imaginable. You know, we're going to get you a good job, and we're going to get you good health care. And, you know, Donald Trump has failed on COVID. He's just walking around repeating this like a little machine. He's got no good ideas, no new ideas. It's just all the usual nonsense. And this election is going to be very tight. It's going to be very tight. So every moment here counts. But yes, that's right. There was more rioting in a major American city last night, entirely Democrats. Can you imagine if there were just a couple of MAGA hats in this crowd of people that were looting and rioting? And can we also point out that this mask mandate, they keep talking about how important this is for our safety from COVID. There are some fundamental aspects of society that are undermined by having people cover up their identity all the time like this. You know, it just so happens that the people who are looting the stores are all covering their faces, which of course means the media will praise them because, they believe the science. No, they're hiding their identities from the security cameras. There are reasons why before COVID there were actual prohibitions in place in a lot of places for having a mask on in public. We need to see who you are. Everyone should be able to see who another person is. This is about our basic social bonds, and it's about safety. But they've just completely abandoned all this now. You're seeing this lawlessness in society, and people say, "Oh, it only happened in Philadelphia." Well, that's not true. It's happened in dozens of cities across the country over the last few months. But it also creates a perception. It creates a mentality. Is your neighborhood safe? Not if BLM and Antifa decide that it's time to make a point. Is your business going to be protected? Does one of two major political parties in this country actually support the police when they have to do the difficult work of dealing with criminals? The answer is no. The Democrat Party, for political purposes, will throw police under the bus. And in doing so, they undermine the rule of law in our society, and they make all of us less safe, less secure, and they just increase the stress and anxiety of this nation at an already fragile time because they think it politically benefits them. You think those people should be in charge? I say no. I say absolutely not. We must defeat them, friends. Remember that. I recently got a crash course in home title theft, and look, you better pray this crime never happens to you because it can ruin you financially. Here's how it works. The bad guys, cyber thieves, they find your information for your home's title. It's online. It's stored in the cloud. It's on servers. They hack in. They take that information. They use a quitclaim deed, kick you off your home's title, put themselves on. Then they start taking out loans against your home. You often won't find out about this until you get a foreclosure notice in the mail. Look, this can ruin you financially. You have to take action today. The usual identity theft services do not protect you. You have to go with the experts I trust at Home Title Lock. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. Use the promo code RADIO. That'll get you 30 free days of protection. You can also check online at that site to see if you're a victim of this crime and don't even know it. That's HomeTitleLock.com. Promo code RADIO for 30 free days of protection. Create a virtual barrier around your home's title today with Home Title Lock.
As everyone is really sad by the death of the victim, and I think I share in mourning with the family. Anytime that happens is a tragedy for whatever reason, and I think we need to make sure that we follow up, find out what happened. and my staff have been in constant communication since last night with the folks in Philadelphia, and the hope is that doesn't escalate into anything more than the peaceful protests that I think this kind of situation brings out.
That's the governor of Pennsylvania. He's a Democrat, and he's a moron. Yeah, it'll just be the peaceful protest. Does he not have access to the internet? Does he not hear from the law enforcement agencies that are having to swoop in and try to prevent further destruction and deterioration of entire neighborhoods of the largest city in Pennsylvania? This is what you get from Democrats, friends. Just peaceful. The pandering to this movement, the pandering to this behavior from Democrat politicians is appalling. How could they not be outraged by this? No, they're outraged by, a photo with 3 Trump supporters in the background who aren't wearing masks outside. Oh my gosh, we're all going to die from it. But this is not really a problem for them. This is not something that they find despicable. No, Democrat politicians don't want to upset a favored constituency here. Looters and rioters. To his credit, and also just before I get to that, Tom Wolf here, the governor of Pennsylvania, referred to Walter Wallace Jr. as the victim, which is interesting terminology. Is he already prejudging then? Did the cops victimize this man, as in they should not have fired their weapons? That would be an interesting explanation to hear from the governor. That he's technically the highest executive and therefore law enforcement official in the state of Pennsylvania. He thinks cops should what? Not be able to shoot when they're being approached by somebody aggressively with a knife who won't drop it? How many times do they have to say drop the knife before it's clear the guy's not dropping the knife? Because they said it on video, I think at least 3, maybe 4 times, very loudly. Okay. But to his credit, the father of Walter Wallace Jr. is at least saying that this looting in his son's name is disgusting. He's being more honest about this than Democrat politicians are. Play 6.
Well, I want people to know I don't obtain all this violence and looting, you know what I mean? And I don't want to leave a bad scar on my son and my family with this looting and chaos stuff, you know what I mean? With the violence, even with the police department, looting the stores, burning it. I mean, this where we live, and that's the only community resource we have. If we take all the resource, burn it down, we don't have anything. So I want my son's name and everybody to stop this and, give my son a chance and our family like we decent people, you know what I mean? They don't want us to target us like we animals, and we's not. We deserve respect, and I ask the public and anybody that have respect for our family to pray for us and, cut it out. Because the looting is very mindset, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it's not going to bring my son back.
An entirely sane and honorable comment here from the father of the deceased. He sees what's going on. He's speaking the truth. And he should be commended for it. He should be commended for saying, this is not about my son. This is not going to bring him back. The looting is not helping anybody here. But you see, the BLM movement, whatever that even really means these days. But this idea that whenever there's police violence of any kind, there should be looting and rioting, it's not really about supporting the victims. It's not really about supporting the black community. It's the mob looking for an excuse. It's people with anger, with frustration and insecurities and a lack of discipline. Whether we're talking about Antifa in Portland or what we saw here in New York or in Philadelphia last night, it's all the same. It's angry people looking for an excuse to do what they want and break the rules, break the laws of society, and hurt people in the name of justice. Oh, the libs are still so upset about the ACB successful confirmation process. We might finally have a conservative majority on the Supreme Court, or a constitutionalist, originalist majority, whatever you want to call it, but Not a bunch of lib activists who get their way whenever they want. Maybe. We don't know yet. We don't really know how exactly Amy Coney Barrett is going to do what she does, but we'll see. It's definitely a good indicator, though, that the libs are very upset about this right now, though. They are very, very upset. And they're even saying that that the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett has killed. Here you go. Here is a primetime MSNBC host telling you that this has led to deaths. Play 10.
Although there's one thing that was missing in his speech. It's something that's been missing from a lot of conservatives I see writing about the election. Something else that Mitch McConnell and the institutional Republican Party and all the staffers and the lawyers and the factotums and the functionaries and the people sitting in the White House watching this right now, perhaps the people on Capitol Hill who have TV on right now, and the right-wing press who've been supporting and spinning for this president, and the people who work for Donald Trump himself and all of his apologists who like to post as independent thinkers, too clever by half, removed from it all, something that every last one of them have done together, other than Supreme Court justices, which cannot be reversed. And that is they have participated in a project that has led to the deaths of probably 100,000 Americans who didn't have to die. Congratulations. You got that done, too. That also can't be reversed. They can't come back. We can't undo that. That's the other accomplishment here, Judge Barrett. They traded one for the other. They traded those lies for this justice. And they had a party about it in the Rose Garden, too, now.
I mean, what the hell is he talking about? What is this? 100,000 people died of COVID because Amy Coney Barrett was really? You know, what's really the argument here? I can't even really follow this guy. I mean, look, he's MSNBC is a bunch of deranged libs on air, watching it from home, the whole thing. Nothing respectable about the network, nothing intellectually or ethically worthwhile. But what is the argument even being made here? That because they didn't focus more on COVID, they did other government business in the Senate, there was a problem? I mean, Nancy Pelosi is standing athwart COVID relief. I'm really curious it's just about Republicans kill people. That's it. Republicans are murderers and kill people. Therefore, any insane socialist lib idea or policy is inherently justified because the other side's a bunch of murderers. You know, I don't say that leftists are a bunch of mass murdering genocidal, fascists. They say that about Republicans. I do think they're crazy, though, because they believe that the right is full of genocidal, mass murdering, immoral monsters. And they certainly believe that of Donald Trump. I mean, it's now a regular claim you'll hear that Trump is directly responsible for the deaths of 200,000 people. You know, in Italy, they're having anti-lockdown riots. And I got to say, I mean, I don't believe in destroying innocent people's public property or hurting people or anything else, but protests about the lockdowns, if that's whatever those are happening, that seems like a good idea to me. The government has to be told no more of this. No more unfettered control of every aspect of citizens' lives because some people are too scared to deal with reality. Reality right now has some bad stuff going on in it. There's no question. COVID is out there. It can kill people, particularly people who are at high risk, and has killed people in large numbers already. We know this. But we also have to lead our lives. We also have to go about living. We can't just be in fear all the time. And this is really a fundamental philosophical disconnect between the left and the right. They're all so connected emotionally and psychologically to a Joe Biden win. They seem to really believe that if Joe Biden wins, everything is going to be better with COVID. That's a fantasy. It's not true. Joe Biden doesn't have some plan. Oh, a national mask mandate? Guess what? Even if they put that in place, there'll be a lot of people who think they're wearing masks, but sometimes don't and still get sick, who think that they're doing everything they're supposed to do, but they make a mistake. Or that one moment when they pull their mask down because it feels kind of weird is when they get that exposure to an aerosolized virus, and this keeps happening all across the country. Italy had the most severe lockdowns of any country in Europe. Maybe Spain as severe, but Italy had these incredibly severe lockdowns, and now they're having a huge wave again. Is it because they don't believe the science? I mean, think about all the epithets that they use against Trump. Is it because, they don't have a Dr. Fauci to tell them what has to be done all the time? Why are these other wealthy, with high levels of public education and even more levels of public compliance with the state, European countries, having these huge spikes in COVID cases right now? And yes, more people in the hospital. And yes, more people dying that have been the case. We've been brainwashed in this country into thinking it's because of Trump and because we haven't done enough. And that's because as we see more information come out, as we see more data, the real case to be made is, why did we lock down exactly? What benefit have we gotten from this? Huge drawbacks. What was the benefit? To just keep delaying a little bit of virus spread in some areas at some times? Maybe. They're never going to admit that that was what's actually happened here. Think about the catastrophic costs and think about what it would do to their power. That they would be wrong on this issue. The people that are screaming, listen to the experts. So they'll never admit that. So what do they say? It's all Trump's fault. This is intellectually and morally lazy and indefensible. And it is the overwhelming position of the Democrat Party right now. And this is the only way they think they're really going to win the election. I'll remind you of that. They keep drilling down on COVID. That is what they think their trump card, if you will, is in this situation. I'll talk to you about the Bobulinski stuff, but I think that on our side, Lieutenant Bobulinski, I watched the whole Tucker Carlson interview last night, as I'm sure about 8 million other Americans did. But I still think that Trump on the economy and on the restoration of basic freedom and the end to arbitrary lockdowns, that's how we win. That's how Trump gets it done. And by following through with things like the Amy Coney Barrett nomination, which is and confirmation, I should say, which is something the president has been pointing out. Play 19.
And last night we made history and we confirmed Amy Coney Barrett to the United States Supreme Court. And Justice Barrett will defend our rights, will defend our liberties and our God-given freedom. She's going to be fantastic, and she's a terrific person.
She is a terrific person. I think she'll be an excellent judge. But I want to remind everyone, this is another circumstance, another instance where now we have the results, right? Now we got the receipts, so to speak. We know what really happened. Trump supporters were mocked in 2016 for believing Donald Trump when he said he had a list and he'd pick from that list and that he would appoint constitutionalists and judges who will defend the rule of law as it is and apply an originalist philosophy. They were mocked. I remember. And it was, but my judges became this meme. It was this ha-ha. Oh, you rubes. Oh, you easily fooled Trump supporters who maybe had some questions about aspects of his character or his past, but you went along because you thought that he was going to give you the good judges. Ha-ha. They thought that was so funny. Yeah, who's laughing now? Look at all the judges in the federal judiciary who are first class, fantastic, constitutionalists, and look at these 3 Supreme Court justices that Trump got through. And I would add to that also that by putting forward and standing behind Kavanaugh when there was a lot of heat and there was pressure on the White House to withdraw that nomination, they brought about the wartime conservative radicalization of millions of Americans, and myself, I think, included in that. Kavanaugh was a wake-up call for us about really the political fight we were in. And I hope that everybody remembers that as we get ready here to vote. If you have not already voted early, get ready to vote on Election Day. It is a reminder of what the stakes are. It is a reminder of what the future will be if the other side loses and our side wins, and vice versa.